So coming back to you in this full review for this Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE. So in our initial review, we couldn't find too much that we actually ended up liking. Like, we talked about how we enjoyed the design of it, which I'll still say, I think this is actually a very handsome looking vehicle. They did a great job on the redesign. The prior model had been around for a little bit in that, let's say, 5th generation. So yeah, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th or 5th generation. That was still a product from the old Daimler Chrysler days. It was actually based on the Mercedes ML, which became the GLE midsize SUV platform. And that was probably one of the best things that came out of that partnership, was to be able to use that platform. And basically you had yourself a Mercedes GLE, or ML at the time, for Jeep money. But as we get into the 2020s, Jeeps are that Jeep money is basically the same as Mercedes money. And so right off the bat, I have a very hard time understanding how this is a $60,000+ vehicle. And one of the things that we noticed when we looked at that, or did that initial review, was this is so cheap and hard plastic and that's not the only thing. Like, it'd be one thing if it was just materials and everything actually worked, but no, you have very, very cheap, inexpensive materials. And also, we had some issues with our Apple CarPlay connecting. Not some issues, we had just issues. It would not connect. It connected first on our first part of this road trip, but then unfortunately I could not get it to connect at all, and ended up having to just use the Apple CarPlay on my phone. And I just, for $60,000, I just don't understand. That is just unacceptable. And I'm not the only one that's had issues with Uconnect and Apple CarPlay. I'll put it up there. You can scroll and look at it. Also put a link to other users' experiences with Jeeps and Uconnect, which is their infotainment interface, and Apple CarPlay. So yeah, it'd be one thing, I guess, if Apple CarPlay was new, but no, it's been around for a little bit, and I just don't understand. In 2025, or we'll check the actual date of this one, it could be a 2024 or 3, but in a 2020s vehicle, if you cannot even connect with Apple CarPlay at all, I understand there sometimes could be some issues with, connecting here and there, but at all, then there's something wrong. And it's just kind of unacceptable at this price point. So we'll get into more unacceptable things here shortly, but it is another cold day here in Connecticut, so we'll go ahead and fire up our Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE and not make that mistake we did on the initial startup. So you get a nice fun little Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE there. And so that just turns on your accessories. And so again, with hybrids, thank you, Avis, thank you. With hybrids, they typically do start up in just electric mode. So I thought that this thing had a check engine light, but no, since there's a lot going on here, go ahead and hit that again to go ahead and start the engine. And so now we're actually started. And there you go. It's you can't tell, it just tells you up here on the screen that your engine's actually on. So I did play around with this gauge a little bit today, because when I first got in, it was very basic and boring. It still is pretty basic, but I did get to play around with some of the controls here. So we'll go ahead and get right into those. So here on your steering wheel, you do have controls for your digital dash, and you can go ahead and change your different views. So driver info, vehicle info, you're going to give your miles per gallon, your average there, and your range that's left, and then basically some off-road information there. So if you're a very adventurous soul and you do decide to take this thing actually off-road, and you're on a Jeep, so it would be kind of expected, but that's that for you there. But basically, here we go, sure, an oil change required, then you have your settings. So here, basically you can adjust and configure this a little bit. One little cool feature I did see was that based on whatever you have selected, so you see upper rights there, it will highlight the section for you on what you're actually changing. So now we got upper left side, you can't really see because of the sun, but the right side, it did illuminate that. So we'll go back and you can see the right side, upper right. And I thought that was a nice little touch. And then that's how basically I was able to add in all these different little, you know, for your outside temperature, there's like a little compass thing up there, and some of like the power and charge indicators and instant fuel economy. So that's why it looks a little different than it did earlier when we did our initial review. So go back and hit exit, and then just go back here to our main speedometer. I really do wish that they had, we'll zoom out a little bit, there we go. I really do wish they actually had traditional, at least just circle gauges. Call me old school, call me old, whatever you want to do, but this is just boring and basic. And again, at $60,000, I think they could definitely engineer a little bit more pizzazz in a otherwise, you know, it has decent resolution, so I will say that's a positive. It is higher resolution than it was in that base level Hyundai Palisade. However, you're getting still a very similar kind of look and feel with just having the speedometer and a tachometer, a digital speedometer and just a tachometer kind of swoopy gauge instead of a nice, you know, just traditional, you know, circle layout. So that's that. That's why that looks like that. But stepping back a little bit, we'll go ahead and get into a little bit of what a Jeep Grand Cherokee is, how long they've been around, who they compete with. And so Jeep Grand Cherokees, they came out in the early 90s, and they were very revolutionary, at least in my opinion. Car magazines, everyone else will probably, you know, say somewhat similar things. It was at a time when there weren't a lot of SUVs on the road at the time. You had your big kind of hulking body on frame SUV options, such as, you know, Suburbans, full-size Broncos, if you remember O.J. Simpson, things like that. And there weren't a lot of these like smaller mid-sized SUVs. People were still driving station wagons and large sedans as their primary family, and minivans too, as their primary family you know, vehicles. And so Ford actually first came out with the Explorer to hit the market, and that was still body on frame. But then Jeep came out with this Grand Cherokee as a direct competitor to that Ford Explorer, because everyone just, once that Explorer came out, that, you know, quickly throughout the 90s became, you know, one of the best selling vehicles in the United States. And so Chrysler at the time, Mopar, Chrysler, you know, they've gone through so many different names over the years. You know, they wanted a little bit of piece of that pie too, and came out with the Grand Cherokee. And it was revolutionary. It was a unibody design, and looks wise, it looked even more, way more futuristic and modern than the Ford Explorer did. And it did well. They had all these different engine options, lots of different transmission options for going off-road. They call it their Quadra-Track system. I believe it actually had all the way up to, like, starts at Quadra-Track 1, which is basic part-time four-wheel drive, and then they ended up, you know, I think even like with the Quadra-Track 4, which was like a full-time four-wheel drive system, but, you know, probably had, you know, locking differentials, or it was a very what was cool about it was that, you know, you got this somewhat nice riding on the road vehicle that you could still actually take off-road, and that was like kind of like their niche that they filled. And then they did a redesign, we'll call it the egg-shaped Grand Cherokee, which was, they softened the edges a little bit on it in the late 90s. And being a high school kid around that time, and into the 2000s, so I'm not gonna let you completely date me, that was like the cool car to have in high school and into college, was a Jeep Grand Cherokee. And especially if you could get that 5.9 limited with that big V8. It was a very cool SUV to have. And then they had a bunch of little special edition ones, like there's like one from like Orvis, had like gold rims on it or something, and that's like when car manufacturers were doing these brand collabs that you really don't see that much anymore these days like that. But they had, it was interesting, like, you know, they had so many different kinds of options and trim models and engine options. And you know, then they merged with Daimler Chrysler in the late 90s, and then came out with probably the worst version of the Jeep Grand Cherokee, and it's totally by opinion, but you don't see many of them on the road. It was that third generation, and that was so plastic fantastic. It was horrible. I remember actually renting one on a vacation, and I took it because you can drive on the beaches out in Oregon, and thinking, oh, we got a Jeep Grand Cherokee, you could totally drive on the beach. Nope, no low range, and luckily we did not get stuck or anything. But it was you know, kind of a wake-up call to like, well, maybe these really aren't all, you know. And they came out with that whole trail rated badge, and that one was not trail rated, but you know, at least they were able to like identify, you know, in some of their model lineups, which ones were good for taking on and off, you know, road. So after that, they then launched that, you know, model in in the early 2010s, that was based on the, you know, Mercedes ML GLE platform. And then they kept that all the way up until the early 2020s, where they finally got through their divorce with Daimler Chrysler and came out with this model here, which is based on the Fiat or not Fiat, but the Alfa Romeo platform. And again, like I said, based on looks alone, it's a very handsome looking vehicle. The prior generation, it didn't look bad, and especially in the later years, they did a little bit of facelifting of it in the mid 2010s and gave it some LED treatments around the lights. And yeah, but it was a little, I'll say a little kind of fat looking, I think. Nothing wrong with that, but you know, when you compare it to this model here, it yeah, it was a little bit more stocky. We'll go with that. Stocky Jeep Grand Cherokee. This, it looks like it's been to the gym a bit. Very nice, like tight, you know, sheet metal. And I love what they did with the front end. We'll shoot a front image of that up there. But reliability and just overall user experience in Jeep Grand Cherokees, I think, has always been something to be desired. And I remember even friends having that second generation, we'll call it the egg one, just having so many issues with it. And unfortunately, while they've generally looked cool, we could take that third generation, and at the time, I guess the third generation looked okay, but compared across all the years, I think that's the least fan favorite of the group. And yeah, you can only, yes, looks will get you very, very far in life, but if you just don't work, then I think it's, you know, you can only rely on those looks so much, and also that kind of go anywhere brand recognition that Jeep, you know, kind of gives you. So it's kind of like, it's a little sad to me, because actually, even like with this model here and introducing like bringing back the Wagoneer series, Jeep really wanted to become this American Land Rover brand, which in pricing, you know, they are checking that box pretty well. In reliability, I think they're checking that box pretty well too. But at least in a Land Rover, your materials are not going to be this, and if they are like this, they hide it pretty well. This is, I can't get, oh, like, look at it, it's like even like shifts. That's so bad. And then all this we showed earlier on that video is just this hard big piece of plastic. And again, I cannot reiterate, $60,000 is a lot of money. I don't care what year it is, $60,000 is a lot of money. So especially for a vehicle. You know, it's cars depreciate, and then you'll see, like, I'll put it up there too, that these tend not, it's one of the few that actually don't hold their value that well, at least on, like, you know, the trade-ins that people are getting on them. And it's not going to be probably the best financial choice for you. You saw last time we rented or did that Mazda, and that is leagues better than the experience that I had, you know, in this Jeep Grand Cherokee. And, you know, on paper, like, and if you do any type of survey or anything, ask your friends, like, you know, what do they think is like a better vehicle, a Jeep Grand Cherokee, or, you know, what would they perceive to be a better vehicle? And, you know, most would probably even, you know, because they don't know, you know, Mazda's not the most well-known brand, or if it is, it's kind of just, oh yeah, little Japanese brand. And, you know, people probably say, oh, yeah, Jeep Grand Cherokees, those are nice, those are really good, those are amazing. Well, when you pull back the wool a little bit, or, you know, you just open the door or touch the door, you can kind of quickly feel that something's a little missing here. Now, I did say we're in a 4xE, so at $60,000, this is not worth it. This is not a buy. This is just a stay away from. I don't understand what the value proposition really is on this, other than gimmicky. And yeah, like, I don't know. Uh, the base models, though, the non-hybrid models, those are still priced fairly competitively, and it only unfortunately comes with one engine option now. It's just a V6, and they've had that V6 for a while. They've dropped the V8, and those are still priced decently. You can get a decently optioned model still in the 40s and have yourself maybe something that's a little bit more reliable or drives better than this model here. I think what they're doing once they dropped the V8 option, you know, this is kind of like their top tier model now, and, you know, on paper, horsepower and torque, you are getting, you know, similar figures there, and also performance numbers. And yes, you are getting decent fuel economy at 19.3 average on this trip, but unfortunately, it's not much better than the standard gas option. I think what they call it is, like, you know, their combined driving, you're only getting maybe 1 mpg better. And so, being a plug-in hybrid, you can actually, you know, if you do choose to plug this in every single night and just drive it on electric mode, I believe you get around like 25, maybe 30 miles of electric driving. But you have to remember to plug this in every single night, and we'll go through all of that real quick. And you can quickly see that, because it is a fairly heavy, big vehicle, it's not that efficient when you compare it to like a Tesla Model Y or something. So it's going to be using more electricity to get you those 25, 30 miles than, say, a Tesla Model Y would. And also the charging time, so unless you have a type, what they call like 2, you know, level, level 2 level, your charging times here, you can see that right there, and then you can see we're only at 1% battery. So we can't even really get any of those benefits unless this thing is charged, fully charged, taking 13 hours and 25 minutes on just a standard, you know, level 120 volt charger. Or at a level 2, yes, but that's still 2 hours and 31 minutes, which, again, you could charge it overnight, you know, and if you only live 13 and a half, maybe 14 miles from work, you could just drive on electric and call it a day. But that price difference is so high between this, the 4xE, and the standard gas options that I'm not sure if you'll ever recoup that. It will take a lot of commutes back and forth to work to make up a $15,000-$20,000 price difference. And so I think you can get like an electric scooter or something, or go buy yourself a used Model 3 if you use Tesla Model 3. You can pick those up from, you know, Hertz, you know, these days, because they're just giving those things away like, you know, like candy. It's wild. But I don't think that the premium is really worth that plug-in hybrid option on this. Okay, that's enough knocking, you know, Jeep. What did I like about it? I will say, once we did get it on the highway, it it's a good highway cruiser. It's stable. You do get enough power from the hybrid system, and that was one thing that was called out in some of the reviewers, that yes, while on paper the max torque and horsepower figures are great, but you only get that max torque and horsepower once you have a full, battery charge there, and it's not trying to charge the battery at the same time and give, electric to like the electric motor and all that. But it would drove fine. Like, I don't think it had that full, and don't quote me, I think it's like 400 and something pound-feet of torque. We'll put it up there. I don't think it had that full on torque on this trip, but it was fine. Sound is a different, story. It sounds like a, if you ever put like forks or spoons in a garbage disposal, hopefully you didn't, that's not a good idea, but if they've ever fallen in there and you accidentally turned it on, that's what this engine sounds like. It's not smooth, it's not quiet. It sounds like that, and then maybe a vacuum cleaner with a cat stuck in it. It sounds like that bad. So, again, not a good, again, for $60,000, and that Mazda we did the other week at $40,000. I think the winner is pretty clear when it comes to that. And if you're looking for just a good drive line and good driving dynamics, Mazda wins all day long. But again, it does drive nice on the highway. It's fairly comfortable. These seats. I would definitely, if I had to get one of these, would have to upgrade to the real leather. Or just please give me cloth or something. They are so alien looking with this shiny material that is so unnatural. I don't know what this is, and they're not like super comfortable or cushy either. So again, that's not a very good day. I'm supposed to be talking about the things I like about this, going off on a tangent. So again, what I like, it drives nice on the highway. There you go. And what else? I like that you get physical buttons, sort of. You get these for your climate control up and down. I did mention earlier you have on this model heated seats, steering wheel, heated seat again, and in the rear too you get heated seats. We'll show that when we do the back seat. But we'll show at night that this is so aggressive. I'm doing it again. Gotta say, we already talked about it. This is so aggressive and bright. That's kind of blinding. But again, at least it's a physical button. I do appreciate that it's just 3 little settings. They do heat up really quick, so that's a good thing. It takes a little bit on my 4Runner for them to actually heat up, so it heats up pretty quick. That's good. Mentioned up here, you do have these physical buttons, so again, good. But what's so bizarre to me is, like, this is supposed to be an off-road vehicle. If you look at a Ford Bronco, these are all kind of like off-road controls. These are things to like turn off like your regen braking, which that was another big ding. Sorry, it's getting lots of dings. They feel so artificial and horrible that's probably why they put this here, so you could turn them off. You turn this on here, so basically, like, when you do brake, it's going to recapture some of that energy and then recharge your battery for you. I turned it on for a little bit. I only got 1%, so I don't think it's really worth it. So we'll go ahead and turn that off for good. There we go. It's a max generation off. Your lane keep assist, it doesn't really keep assist. That's another odd thing at this price point. On the Hyundai Santa Fe that we did a couple weeks ago too, it actually would keep you in the lane. So if you do start drifting, it does have that, I can't think of the word, it's been a long day, but it will keep you center in the lane. This just beeps at you and buzzes at you and kind of vibrates the steering wheel. Oh, the engine kicked on. So again, at $60,000, you don't get that as like a full lane keep assist or lane keeping you in the lane option. A little odd. Traction control on and off, hazards, and then your parking sensor off. There, I think this too, because it is very aggressive and loud when you're backing up, and you can adjust it through all the levels of menus here in your infotainment system, but I think it just annoyed people, so that's why they put it there as an option. Then you have 2 other blanks there for other options. Another cool thing, it does have adaptive cruise control and also regular cruise control. I got a little confused as driving. So here's your regular cruise control, here's your adaptive cruise control. I don't see why you need both, but you do get both. This is kind of this is useful. So for your gap assist, you can just adjust, lower this gap there, increase the gap there, versus just having one button do it and having to kind of cycle through all that. So that was kind of good. All pretty standard there. We went through this. This is your menus for your gauge cluster there. You do have paddle shifters, which, sure, okay, fine. Typical of all Chryslers, they have, or Chrysler products, they have the volume controls and then your tuning track controls over behind the steering wheel. So keeps them out of the way. They've been doing that for a while, and it works. It's fine. The other thing too, the steering wheel is huge. It's really the diameter of it doesn't even fit in the camera. It's big. The materials on it are okay, better than that, but still kind of cheap feeling. And then you have like your just normal door card stuff here. A little interesting design-ish, I guess. But this here, it's better than what was in the Ford Explorer Limited. I'll give it that, but it's still, it's plastic. It's like a big sticker. And if it isn't, and it is real wood, I'm sorry, but it just doesn't look very natural. So what else do we have to cover? You do get an Alpine stereo in this. It sounded decent, kind of bassy, but it's better than the one of my 4Runner, so I'll give it a plus on that. We did mention earlier that you do get this giant panoramic sunroof here, which is pretty cool. I do think these are kind of fun. You have lots of buttons because I guess they couldn't engineer all this into like one, or they figure people just don't like that, but you will typically see like maybe only one or two buttons, or even a Mercedes now it's like a slider. But it works. You can go ahead and watch it open, which is kind of cool. So it's a very nice big open space, which will probably leak at, we're at 24,000 miles now. We'll hopefully get to the 50 before it starts causing you any issues, but for now it's working, so that's good. Unlike my Apple CarPlay, which was just, I'll overlay that was so frustrating. Again, I actually had to pull over. I'd like get off the highway because it would not, and then fiddle around with it for 5 minutes to just connect it through Bluetooth, and then it still wouldn't connect my Apple CarPlay. So all I had was just Bluetooth for like phone calls and audio, and that's just, again, it's a $60,000 vehicle, and I think people just need to get a little real with how much they're spending. It doesn't matter what your payments are. You're spending $60,000+, and if you're financing the thing and you have interest on it, then you're spending a lot more than $60,000 over the term of that loan. So that's, I'm such a financially disciplined person that I cannot reiterate that enough, that you have to pay attention to those things. And here on the Fitter Commuter TFC reviews, we really, really do like to hopefully give you what our opinions are about vehicles, because we do love vehicles, but they are one of the biggest expenses that you do make in life. And so make good decisions, make the right decisions. If you pick this up on a lease, then you really don't have to kind of deal with all this, but you will have to deal with it in your time when you're taking it to and from the dealer. And from even the car review magazines, they had one of these 4xEs, and it could have been a lemon, but you can only have so many lemons before you just have just a lemon product. At the end of the day, you just have an orchard of lemons. At the end of the day, it's not unique. If several hundred people are experiencing the same thing, and they actually were left stranded 2 or 3 times and had to be towed in a brand new vehicle, and that just should not be happening. And so yes, you could say, well, I don't have to worry about long-term maintenance and stuff. I have a lease, or even get rid of these things before my before the warranty runs out. And yes, that may be true, but your time will be spent to and from that dealer if you are left stranded, or even your heaven forbid, your safety's put in jeopardy too. Being stranded on the side of a road in the middle of the night, middle of winter. That doesn't sound like a experience that, you know, I would want to be experiencing after spending $60,000 or over, you know, close to $1,000 a month, when you, especially when you tack on insurance and gas, property tax, all the above. And if you don't have property tax, but still, you're spending a lot of money. And so make sure that that money is well spent. That's my PSA for the day. What other things? We already went over, like the physical buttons. You get a bunch of auxiliary ports. The other weird thing this does say on the website, it does have wireless Apple CarPlay. I've tried both ways. I tried with the cord, I tried wireless, and it just does not connect. It connected again, like on our first part of our journey today, but after you know, stopping and trying to, you know, get to reconnect, it just would not connect. So let me know in the comments if you guys have experienced the same thing or any tricks or anything with that. You have your drive mode controls here. Nice rotary here. I do like these. So, okay, you got two things I like. I like the design, and I like this little rotary. I think that's cooler than, you know, just the buttons. It's easy to use. It's intuitive. Cool. But you have a low range, you know, on your transfer case there too. So you could do some light off-roading in it. I would put some beefier tires on it. But again, like that hybrid system, I just don't know, like, and then things that are supposed to like work automatically all the time, connecting like through Bluetooth or wireless, you know, or even Apple CarPlay with like a cord, should just be automatic. I don't know if I'd venture too far into the wilderness, you know, with this, and, you know, hope to get back. I would take a Toyota. So with that, let's go ahead and check out the back and then wrap up this video on this Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE. Yeah, you really do feel yourself squishing around on these leatherette seats. Sitting back here, I will say panoramic sunroofs really do help with it not feeling like a cave, so good stuff there. It is only a 2-row SUV. This is not the L or extended, so you do get some decent cargo space. There is that fun little Easter egg there. We'll go ahead and zoom in a bit, where you get all the generations of Jeep Grand Cherokee, starting from left to right, that first gen, and then to this generation there on the right. So fun little Easter egg there. Yeah, it's pretty basic back here. You have airbags, you know, back there, some tie downs. I will show in the closeout video another little concession you do make with the hybrid option. So the load floor is actually up a little bit higher to accommodate the battery, and because it's a plug-in hybrid, the batteries are much larger than on a standard hybrid, so you're losing some cargo capacity there, and then also the lift height to actually be able to like lift product in, or, you know, your packages and stuff into your cargo area, you know, is a little bit higher than it normally would be because of that battery. And what else back here? That Mazda, again, that Mazda is giving you such nice personal controls. This is just giving you vents. You do get your heated seats though, which is kind of cool. USB and USB-C charging ports. But this, like, more plastic, like, that's so bad. I don't, at $60,000, you're getting this plasticky, crappy grill. Whatever. At the end of the day, you got some, that's interesting, you got power door locks, you know, back here. Usually, do you see that? I don't know. It's a long day. Okay, we're gonna go back up, you know, to the front and wrap this video up. Okay, Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE. Final thoughts. I wouldn't even say pick one up in the used market, because I'm just too concerned about the reliability on it, and I can check on, you know, put up what the warranties are on these, but this engine's so coarse sounding. That's interesting. It doesn't like red. I'm gonna put it in drive. I don't know. Like, some whatever, just so you could maybe hear it rev a little bit. But it's the world we live in. Maybe that's just something interesting. And then it died. Whatever. Yeah, I just, again, design wise, you know, if you're just looking for something to be fashionable in and maybe park in front of the valet, and hopefully maybe the one, if you did get one of these, wouldn't cause you that many troubles. But I don't know if you'd be able to get to the valet because, well, the Apple CarPlay doesn't work, and unless, you know, you're just great with memorizing directions, well, you do have navigation, I will say that. So at this price point, you better have navigation. So that's not really a winning checking the box thing for me. It's $60,000. You should have navigation. But yeah, like, I wanted to really like this. I was so excited about actually finally get to drive one of these because, you know, they finally refreshed them, but unfortunately, at least this model here, this version, this particular example of a Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE just really is not ticking the boxes for me. Again, it's a comfortable highway cruiser, but I do a little bit more driving than out on a straight road at 70-75 miles an hour. So that stopping of the you know, when it goes from, like, you know, the engine to the, you know, normal gas engine, when it cuts over to like the electric engine, it's also very rough. So in normal city driving or just driving around your town, that was rough. The regen braking, you know, is almost unusable. That they made a button for it right here to, you know, just turn it off instead of having it buried here in a system. But it looks good. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. We don't need to, like, bash this Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xE anymore. Thank you again for watching. Please like and subscribe, and join us in the next video, and we will see you soon. Okay, quick update here. So my Apple CarPlay has completely, well, it's not working at all, and neither is Bluetooth audio or even old school cord audio. So thinking it's probably just an issue with this particular one, but after reading in the comments, I think they actually do have some problems here with this Uconnect. Also, will say though that this is not nearly as bright as it was last night. Unfortunately, like I guess the previous driver that had this had the lights turned all the way up. So this is what I experienced when I got the car last night. It was very blinding. And so you can see that I'll flick it again. That does help a little bit, but it is still pretty bright, those lights. But when you do flick that up to max setting, it's a little bit unbearable. So that's gonna wrap up this video. That's just a quick little update. The other thing is too, if any of you guys know in the comments or out there, what is that bizarre, weird, ethereal noise that happens when it's only in electric mode? It is so annoying. I cannot figure out for the life of me to like figure out how to turn it off. If it's permanent, it is the most annoying thing on the planet. I would never buy a hybrid or any electric that plays all the time. So I got a video captured of it. I'll play it as an overlay, and you let me know if that is something that you can actually turn off, or you know, if you're just kind of stuck with that headache inducing sound. Thanks again for watching. Have a great one, and we'll see you in the next video.